What if I told you that your body, the very vessel you inhabit, is a living museum of evolutionary compromises, ancient hacks, and brutal sacrifices? That every breath you take, every step you walk, every thought you think is built on a foundation of biological gambles that could have gone catastrophically wrong? The truth is far more unsettling than medical textbooks dare admit. It begins in silence, pitch black, suffocating and small. A fetus floats in amniotic stillness, its fingers twitching, its tiny heart hammering a rhythm it doesn't yet understand. Inside this liquid world, a body is forming. But what no one tells you is that this body, the human body, carries the story of every ancestor who came before. A living museum of ancient hacks, brutal mistakes, and wild strokes of evolutionary luck. Think about this. You are the result of an unbroken chain of survivors stretching back 3.7 billion years. Not a single one of your direct ancestors failed to reproduce. Not one. They all survived long enough, through ice ages, mass extinctions, predators, starvation, and disease, to pass their genes forward. You are the impossible mathematical improbability made flesh. But that miracle came with devastating compromises. Because your spine? It was never meant to walk upright. That simple act, standing, put unbearable strain on our backs. And yet we did it. Why? To see farther, to scan the horizon, to survive. But that survival came at a price. Back pain, herniated discs, compressed nerves, these are the echoes of evolution's gamble. And still we stood. Have you ever wondered why 80% of adults will experience debilitating back pain in their lifetime? Why we spend billions on mattresses, ergonomic chairs, and painkillers? Because we're using hardware designed for quadrupedal movement in a bipedal world. Your spine is essentially a horizontal bridge forced to function as a vertical column. Engineers would call this catastrophic design failure. Biologists call it adaptation. The L4 and L5 vertebrae bear more weight than any others in your spine. They're also the most likely to rupture, to fail, to collapse under pressure. Is it coincidence? Or is it the price we pay for standing tall? For freeing our hands? For seeing above the savanna grass? Every time your back seizes in agony, you're experiencing the echo of that ancient evolutionary gamble. But here's what gets stranger. Our jaw. Once strong enough to crush raw roots and chew through uncooked meat, it's now too small for our teeth. That's why wisdom teeth erupt like landmines, crowding your mouth and sometimes requiring surgery just to remove. So why did we evolve smaller jaws? Because we began cooking food. We outsourced digestion to fire. What began as convenience reshaped our anatomy and changed our destiny. But that trade-off? It's just the beginning. Did you know that modern humans are the only species that routinely needs orthodontic intervention? Our jaws are so compressed that our teeth grow crooked, crowded, impacted. We spend thousands straightening them, extracting them, reshaping them. All because our ancestors discovered fire and softened their food. The pleasure of cooked meals came at the cost of oral deformity. Was it worth it? Your orthodontist's bill might argue otherwise. And this jaw reduction had an even more profound consequence. Speech. Only with a shorter snout and repositioned larynx could we form the complex sounds of human language. Our ability to say love and hate and God came directly from the anatomical shift toward processed food. What you say, every word, every song, every whispered secret, exists because your ancestors changed how they ate. Because if you look at your own hand, what you're seeing is a tool of contradiction. It's delicate enough to thread a needle and yet strong enough to break bone. The human hand is a miracle of design, but it's also evidence of a dark truth. We evolved to kill. The precision grip, the opposable thumb, these weren't just for holding berries. They were for wielding spears, shaping blades, drawing bows. Civilization came later. Violence came first, and the body remembers. The bones in your hand, 27 of them, more than a quarter of all bones in your body, arranged with such precision that you can both crush and caress. The same fingers that can snap a branch can also play Chopin, suture a wound, or trace a lover's face. But look closer at your knuckles. They're reinforced specifically to withstand the impact of a punch without breaking. Why would evolution build this feature unless violence was embedded in our design? Even more disturbing, studies of hand strength show that male hands evolved optimal proportions for gripping exactly the size of stone most effective for use as a weapon. Not for tools, for weapons. The same hand that created the Sistine Chapel was shaped by millennia of combat, of crushing, of killing. Every time you pick up a pen, you're using anatomy honed for warfare. But if the hand is a weapon, then the brain is the battlefield. At only 3 pounds, it consumes over 20% of the body's energy, and no one really knows why it got so big. Some say it was because of language. Others say it was social games, figuring out who was lying, who was leading, who was loving. But whatever the reason, there's a twist. The bigger the brain, the riskier the birth. Human childbirth is one of the most dangerous in the animal kingdom. It's so perilous, in fact, that some anthropologists believe social bonding began not with love, but with labor. We had to help each other give birth. Cooperation was born in blood. Think about this. A gorilla gives birth in about 4 hours, typically alone and without complication. A human? Labor often lasts days. The infant's head is so large compared to the birth canal that the skull must actually deform. The fontanelles, those soft spots on a baby's head, exist purely to allow this crushing compression during birth. 1 in 3 births historically ended in death of mother, child, or both. We paid for our intelligence with our mother's lives. The human brain effectively doubled in size over just 2 million years. Evolutionary eye blink. Such rapid expansion created what anthropologists call the obstetrical dilemma: how to birth large-brained infants through a narrow bipedal pelvis. The solution was brutal. Give birth to premature, helpless babies. Human infants are born a full year earlier in development than they should be, compared to other primates. We're born vulnerable, incapable, totally dependent. All because our brains grew too big, too fast. And yet, for all its genius, the human brain is also incredibly fragile. A single blood clot can end everything. A protein misfolded the wrong way can unravel memory itself. Alzheimer's, strokes, depression, these aren't flukes. They're signs that the body's most advanced organ walks a tightrope between brilliance and breakdown. Why would evolution allow something so powerful to be so weak? The answer may be even more disturbing. Because evolution doesn't care about happiness, only reproduction. Have you ever considered that your consciousness, the very essence of your being, exists in complete darkness, floating in cerebrospinal fluid, never once seeing light? Your brain has no pain receptors. Surgeons can probe it while patients are fully awake. You can literally touch your own mind and feel nothing. And yet, that same organ generates your entire subjective reality. Everything you've ever experienced exists only as electrochemical signals interpreted by 3 pounds of fatty tissue. How can you be sure what's real? The brain's vulnerability extends beyond physical damage. It's susceptible to hijacking. Parasites like Toxoplasma gondii can literally rewire rat brains to remove their fear of cats, making them easier prey. And humans, up to 40% of us carry this same parasite. Studies suggest it affects our behavior too, subtly increasing risk-taking behavior and reaction times. What else might be puppeteering your thoughts without your knowledge? Now let's talk about skin. The largest organ, the first barrier, the most visible part of who we are. Yet it too carries secrets. Human skin adapted for a naked life, sweating to cool us, pigmenting to protect us. Darker skin in high UV zones, lighter skin in low light environments. But colonial science twisted this truth into lies, using skin as a marker of worth instead of weather. The body adapted for survival. Society weaponized it for control. And those scars still haven't healed. Your skin contains over 1,000 species of bacteria, an ecosystem as diverse as a rainforest, living on you, feeding off you, protecting you. Without them, your immune system would collapse. You are not just human. You are a walking colony, a symbiotic relationship between your cells and trillions of microbes. Where does you end and other begin? The boundary is far more blurred than we acknowledge. The skin remembers too. Every sunburn you've ever had increases your cancer risk. Every UV ray that penetrated your melanin left its mark in damaged DNA. Your skin keeps a lifetime record of exposure, of damage, of repair, until one day it can't repair anymore. That mold-changing shape? It's a cellular rebellion decades in the making. The body's largest organ is also its most vulnerable timekeeper. And then there's the heart, a relentless muscle beating 100,000 times a day, every day. It starts beating before we're born, and yet we barely notice it until it fails. Heart disease is the #1 killer in many countries, but why? Is it our diet, our stress, our sedentary life? Partly. But here's the real shock. The heart isn't failing because it's weak. It's failing because it was never meant to last this long. Most of human history, life expectancy barely hit 30. We're now asking a machine built for 30 years to run for 80. And sometimes it just gives out. Your heart will beat approximately 2.5 billion times in your lifetime. No engineer has ever created a pump that could function continuously for 80 years without maintenance. And yet, we expect our hearts to do exactly that. We fill our arteries with plaque, spike our blood pressure with stress hormones, and then act surprised when the system fails. The miracle isn't that hearts fail, it's that they last as long as they do. Did you know that heart cells continue to try to beat even when separated in a petri dish? They pulse, searching for a rhythm for connection, even in isolation. What does that tell us about the nature of life? About determination? About the relentless drive to continue, even when separated from the whole? The eyes, too, betray us. We see less than 1% of the light spectrum. We're nearly blind to the world around us, and worse, our eyes lie. They fill in gaps, invent details, see patterns that aren't there. Optical illusions aren't tricks. They're proof that perception isn't reality. And still, we trust what we see. But what if we're wrong? Your retina receives roughly 10 million bits of visual data every second. Your conscious mind can process only about 40 bits per second. This means 99.9996% of what your eyes detect never reaches your awareness. Your brain decides without your knowledge or consent what you need to see and what you don't. What else is it filtering out? What reality are you missing in plain sight? Even more disturbing, your eyes evolved underwater. They're still optimized for aquatic vision. That's why you need tears. Your eyes are perpetually drying out in open air. That's why you see better underwater with goggles. They recreate the environment your eyes evolved for. Every time you blink, roughly 28,800 times a day, you're compensating for an organ that still hasn't fully adapted to terrestrial life. Meanwhile, deep inside, our gut holds a universe. Trillions of microbes live there, more bacteria than human cells. They shape our mood, our immunity, even our cravings. You think you want sugar? Maybe. Or maybe the bacteria in your colon sent that craving like a whisper from below. It's a haunting thought that our behavior is partly dictated by invisible life forms living inside us. And they've been with us since birth. Scientists now believe the gut may be a second brain, containing over 100 million neurons, more than in your spinal cord. It produces 95% of your serotonin, the happiness chemical. Depression, anxiety, mood disorders, all potentially linked to gut microbiome imbalance. What if mental health treatments have been focusing on the wrong organ all along? What if psychiatrists should be examining stool samples instead of thought patterns? The bacteria in your gut outnumber your human cells 10 to 1. By cell count, you are more bacterial than human. These microbes collectively weigh about 2 to 5 pounds, the weight of a human brain. They have their own goals, their own evolutionary pressures, and they manipulate their host, you, to serve their needs. Cravings for certain foods? Mood shifts? What if they're not you at all, but biological puppetry from below? But even birth itself isn't what we thought. New studies show babies born by C-section have different gut microbiomes, higher risks of asthma, obesity, allergies. Why? Because vaginal birth seeds the baby with protective bacteria, a process that's been silently safeguarding us for thousands of years. Until now, the first microbes to colonize an infant's gut help educate the immune system, teaching it what's dangerous and what's safe. Disturb this process, and the consequences cascade through life. C-section babies miss the initial exposure to maternal vaginal microbiota, receiving skin bacteria instead. Their immune systems develop differently as a result. The rate of autoimmune diseases in C-section children? Up to 20% higher. A simple change in birth method reverberates through the entire body system for a lifetime. And what about the microbes in breast milk? Human milk contains oligosaccharides, complex sugars that human infants cannot digest. Why would evolution waste energy producing indigestible sugars? Because they're not for the baby, they're for the baby's gut bacteria. We've been actively feeding our microbiome partners since the dawn of our species. The relationship is so vital that we've encoded it in our very milk. The body stores memory in strange places, not just in neurons, but in posture, tension, even scars. Trauma shapes the nervous system. A single event, an assault, a loss, a war, can rewire how a person breathes, stands, even digests food. The body keeps the score, long after the mind forgets. Combat veterans often demonstrate exaggerated startle responses decades after leaving the battlefield. Their nervous systems remain hypervigilant, trapped in danger mode. Abuse survivors showed distinct patterns of muscle guarding, physical armor built by the body to protect against attacks that ended years ago. The fascia, connective tissue surrounding muscles, actually changes density in response to chronic stress. You can literally feel past trauma under your fingertips. Even more disturbing, trauma can be inherited. Studies of Holocaust survivors' children show altered stress hormone profiles matching their traumatized parents, despite never experiencing the original trauma. Epigenetic changes, modifications to how genes express themselves, can be passed to offspring. Your anxiety might not be just yours. It might be the echo of your grandmother's suffering encoded in your cells before you were born. Our immune system is brilliant, but brutal. It saved us from plagues, but it also attacks us without warning. Autoimmune diseases like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, type 1 diabetes are the body turning on itself. Scientists don't fully understand why. Some blame modern hygiene, others point to stress, genetics, environment. But the truth is, the body's defense system isn't perfect, and sometimes it misfires. Consider this. Your immune system must distinguish between self and non-self, identifying trillions of foreign molecules while leaving your own cells untouched. It makes this determination millions of times per day, with accuracy approaching 99.99%. But when it's wrong, your body becomes a battlefield. In multiple sclerosis, the immune system strips the protective coating from your own nerves. In rheumatoid arthritis, it dissolves your joints from within. The very system designed to protect you becomes the agent of your destruction. The modern epidemic of allergies tells an even stranger story. Your immune system wasn't designed for cleanliness. It evolved in a world of dirt, parasites, and constant microbial exposure. Remove those challenges, as we have with modern hygiene, and the immune system can become hypersensitive, reacting violently to harmless substances like peanuts or pollen. Your life-threatening allergy might actually be the result of a bored immune system with nothing better to attack. And here's the most unnerving part of all. We are still evolving. Not thousands of years from now, right now. Studies show our jaws are getting smaller. Our pinky toes may disappear. Our brains might shrink, not grow. Natural selection didn't stop. It just changed speed. Recent genetic studies reveal that the rate of human evolution actually accelerated over the past 10,000 years, precisely when we developed agriculture and dense societies. The forces that shaped us for millions of years haven't disappeared. They've transformed, and they're still acting on us today, right now, in real time. In just the last 3,000 years, human lactose tolerance spread rapidly through populations that kept dairy animals. Blue eyes, a mutation less than 10,000 years old, proliferated across northern Europe. High-altitude adaptations developed in Tibetan populations within the last 3,000 years. These aren't ancient changes. They're practically yesterday in evolutionary terms. We engineered new pressures, artificial light, processed food, polluted air, our bodies are adapting again, but not always in our favor. Fertility rates are dropping. Testosterone levels are falling. Sperm counts are crashing. Some researchers call it the silent extinction. But it's happening quietly, invisibly inside us. Male sperm counts in Western countries have declined by more than 50% in just 40 years. If this trend continues, the median man will be effectively sterile by 2060. Something is happening to human reproduction. Something unprecedented, something alarming. Is it environmental toxins, plastics, diet, stress? Whatever the cause, our bodies are responding to modern life with reproductive shutdown. Women's bodies are changing too. Girls now reach puberty years earlier than their great-grandmothers did. The average age of menarche in industrialized nations has dropped from 17 to 12 in just over a century. Our endocrine systems, the delicate hormonal balance that regulates growth, metabolism, and reproduction, are being disrupted by thousands of synthetic chemicals never before encountered in human history. And yet, this fragile, flawed body can do things no machine ever will. It can feel heartbreak and still love. It can break and still heal. It can remember pain and still dance. For all its imperfections, the human body remains the most advanced instrument in the known universe. It is a story written in scars, in blood, in bone. And it's not finished yet. Have you ever truly considered the miracle of wound healing? A paper cut triggers a cascade of cellular responses more complex than the most advanced factory assembly line. First, platelets rush to the breach, forming a temporary plug. Then, fibrin creates a mesh to reinforce the clot. Inflammatory cells flood the area, killing bacteria and clearing debris. Growth factors signal skin cells to multiply and migrate. Collagen rebuilds the extracellular matrix. All this happens automatically without conscious thought, repairing damage that would destroy any machine we've ever built. Or consider childbirth, that moment when one body becomes two. The cervix, normally tight enough to hold back the pressure of amniotic fluid, suddenly dilates to 10 centimeters. The uterus, a muscle that can remain quietly dormant for decades, suddenly generates enough force to expel a fully formed human being. After birth, breast tissue that has been dormant springs into milk production. And then, most incredibly, the entire reproductive system resets, ready to do it all again. No engineer has ever designed a system capable of such radical transformation. Even your senses defy technological mimicry. Your nose can detect certain compounds in parts per trillion, the equivalent of detecting a drop of perfume in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. Your ears can distinguish between sounds arriving just 30 microseconds apart, the basis for directional hearing. Your eyes can adapt to light conditions ranging across a factor of 1 billion, from bright sunlight to near total darkness. The most advanced cameras we've built still can't match this dynamic range, because what comes next may be even stranger. Merging with machines, rewriting genes, extending life beyond its natural limit. But if we tamper too far, do we stop being human? Genetic engineering tools like CRISPR now allow us to edit our own genome, to remove disease genes, to enhance capabilities, to reshape our biological destiny. We stand at the threshold of becoming the architects of our own evolution. No longer passive subjects of natural selection, but active designers of our biological future. The ethical questions are staggering. Who decides what improvement means? Who gets access to these technologies? Will we create new forms of inequality? Genetic casts more profound than any social division in history? Brain-machine interfaces advance each year. Neuralink, Kernel, and others race to connect human consciousness directly to computers. The stated goal? To enhance human capability, to cure neurological disease. But the implications stretch far beyond medicine. What happens when thoughts can be read, recorded, perhaps even planted? When memory becomes downloadable? When the distinction between your mind and artificial intelligence blurs beyond recognition? Life extension research accelerates. Scientists have already extended the lifespan of simple organisms by factors of 10 or more. Human trials of senolytics, drugs that clear aging cells, show promising results. Some researchers genuinely believe the first person to live to 150 is already born. Others aim higher, much higher. What happens to society when death becomes optional? When the natural cycle of generational turnover slows or stops? When the old never make way for the young? That's the question science hasn't answered, and the body, so far, hasn't decided. Look down at your hands again. Feel your heart beating. Take a deep breath. This body, imperfect, compromised, miraculous, is the product of 4 billion years of evolutionary experiment. It carries the echoes of fish that first crawled onto land, of mammals that survived the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, of primates that stood upright and changed everything. You are a living fossil, a time capsule, a walking museum of ancient adaptations, and yet you are also the cutting edge, the newest model of humanity, equipped with features your ancestors never dreamed possible. You exist at the boundary between what we were and what we might become. So the real question isn't just how the human body evolved, but how it continues to evolve. With every choice we make, from the food we eat to the technologies we embrace to the genes we edit, we are becoming the architects of our own biological future. The human body isn't just a masterpiece of natural engineering. It's an unfinished symphony. And we, all of us, are both the orchestra and the composers. What we play next will determine not just our fate, but the very definition of what it means to be human.